Hello, everyone, and welcome to Studio Jake. I, of course, am your host, Jacob Airy. Thank you for joining us today. I am very excited to have on the program Mr. Jeffrey Morris. He is the founder of FutureDude Entertainment, and they have an awesome-looking new movie coming out called Parallel Man Infinite. I saw the sizzle reel for it. It looks awesome, but I'm going to let the man himself tell me about it. So,
Oh, sure.
Mr. Morris, welcome to Studio Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Let's see, Parallel Man. We produced this short a couple of years back. Actually, it was part of a uh, kind of a branding goal with this IP we were developing. You know, Parallel Man was also it's a graphic novel that we did, and it was a 7-issue comic book series and also a mobile device game. So it was pretty cool. So it's all about this kind of James Bond style super soldier who's from a parallel Earth, parallel universe, and there's a totalitarian regime there that's going around sort of conquering. They've destroyed their planet, so they're going around conquering other Earths and taking their resources and that sort of thing. And so he's turning against them in order to try to bring freedom back to the multiverse, basically. So kind of at least the 12 worlds these guys have captured, basically. So it's a cool story it's a very propulsive adventure where we call it skipping. We're skipping between multiple parallel realities, and the thing that's cool about it, you'll see in the film, it's kind of like temporally, from a time standpoint, all the universes are the same. And then and the location's the same, but it's a different universe. So in other words, one universe might be in the beginning of the film, you see sort of this area near Chicago, and it's just kind of this nice pastoral looking place. And then he skips to another universe and it becomes an industrial landscape. And then he skips to another place and then it's a world where the dinosaurs never became extinct, that sort of thing. So it's pretty cool. So you're skipping all these different universes, but it's part of a much bigger story. And our goal is to use this short film to blow the property up and turn it into a TV series and hopefully a lot more. So
and I'm a little curious because you've worked with both live action and animation, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And
Yeah.
why animation for this project? Everyone who watches Studio Jake knows I love animation. I'm a big animation enthusiast, so I'm curious why you went this route for this particular project.
I think it had to do with the scale of things. When this was produced, it was just before the advent of LED volume technology. And are you familiar with that at all? What they used on the Mandalorian?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and everything. So, and actually, the feature film I'm working on right now that I'm going to be shooting soon, that's going to be quite a bit of. We're actually working with the same team that did the Mandalorian, so we're going to use a lot of that same technology. But the point is, when we did this, I started looking at the in terms of the cost of doing a story about multiple universes and trying to do it realistically in a photoreal way. Very, very expensive, And I thought with animation, I could just let my imagination run wild and just do whatever I wanted, So it was like, and so, whereas like the thing that we produce in animation in live action that would probably cost a couple $100 million to really do right at that scale and make it look the way I'd want it to look. There's obviously been shows with parallel universes like Sliders, and I think there was another show recently. What was it? Counterpart. But those are not like what we're doing, where it's on this huge scale with this massive technology and alien worlds and all these sorts of things. So animation really served that well. And a big part of what I wanted to do also was when you look at the film, the look and feel, it was important to me to create something that looked different than the typical animation nowadays. I wanted it to have a feeling, like when I was a kid, I saw these really neat animations in the 70s where they had these like watercolor backgrounds and gouache backgrounds with these warm colors and everything. And I thought, what if we put this high-tech technology and everything into more of a more organic, warm-looking world, and I think that's what we ended up with, which is pretty cool, So.
And like I said, I can't wait to see it. And it's not just that you're, putting this out. You're also partnering with Dust, and they do a ton of great work with Sci-Fi. They do podcasts and films and short films and everything in between. So, tell us a little bit about that. What's it like working with a company like Dust?
Well, Dust, they're awesome. I mean, they one thing I think they really respect filmmakers and people who are like me, who are trying to do stuff that is kind of on the fringe. And there's sort of the mainstream Hollywood, and then there's sort of this fringe thing where there's some very talented, visionary individuals who are trying to create content it's different, right? And because like if you look at Hollywood, it's very much about rebooting old IPs. And right. if it's not a reboot, then it's got to be something that did really well as a video game or did really well as a book, right? So they don't like taking a lot of risks with new content. And what I like about Dust is that they're all about that. They're all about taking the risk on new content. And not only that, it's not just about releasing short films like ours. In our case, they were so impressed and enthused with what we've created that we've got a deal to potentially develop more stuff with them. They've actually produced full feature films and TV shows and stuff like that too. So that's Gunpowder and Sky, the company that owns Dust. So, which is cool. So yeah, so I'm very, very excited to work with them. Great team over there, and super cool people.
Yeah, I'm a little curious about sort of the backstory of FutureDude, because you've done, like I said, you've done comic books, you've done short stuff, and you've done live action and animation. And I'm just curious, what gave you the itch to break off and start your own indie production company?
Well, it's something that's been in development for a long time. My background, I've worked a lot in, in the 90s, I did a lot of music videos and commercials and things like that. But I also, I've always been a big science enthusiast and design enthusiast. So what this has been for me is this company's it's like pulling all my different interests together. So, so I've always planned, like while I was developing my skills as a director, I was writing and designing. And I'm always studying science on the background. And so, one thing about our stories is that we try to create content that's completely realistic. It's not. Let's look this way. Parallel Man's not that. Parallel Man's more of I'd call it a tech fantasy, right?
Right.
This, like Star Wars, is not really sci-fi. It's real science fiction. It's more like a space fantasy. That's what I would say. But most of our projects, like the feature film we're developing right now, Persephone, that is all based on real science, and we're trying to get it. I call it the 85% rule. We try to create things that are 85% believable and realistic. So if you see the spaceships flying around, they have thrusters. They don't fly on magic, and so you'll see there's not going to be sound in space in my movies, and all those sorts of things. So it's very rooted. It's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey and stuff like that, where you're trying to make it plausible, and everything. So this was all about creating a venue for me to tell those kinds of stories. That's what FutureDude's all about for me. And I got the moniker FutureDude. I had a blog actually that I was running back around 2012 that was all about my adventures in science and entertainment, and because I was running into all these cool actors and scientists and technology people. And so I started really documenting the journey, and I created this blog called FutureDude, because I realized that the stuff I'm into really isn't just about space. It's about the future at large. And so then it was like Bill Nye the Science Guy. I was like, oh, what's a cool name? So the FutureDude thing, and it took off. People really liked it. So I renamed my company. My company's actually called Morris FutureWorks, but I renamed it FutureDude because it worked. So yeah, so that's where that comes from.
Well, that's really cool. And I heard you mention 2001: Space Odyssey. What are some other films or filmmakers that have been a big influence in your creativity?
I obviously early in his career, Ridley Scott. Alien and more importantly, Blade Runner for me. I think Blade Runner was.
Which version of Blade Runner?
Well, it's controversial, but I actually like the first theatrical version, and I'll say why. Lots of people don't agree with me, but I'll tell you why. I think that it's such a different world to be dropped into that I think that it was a good call to put the narration on it, because it was like it's film noir, right? It felt, and so I think it actually worked, and I liked that intro, and I liked that sort of monotone delivery. It reminded me of those old black and white thrillers, from the old days. It's just like, yeah, the way I died. You know what I mean? You get the detective talking. That's what it felt like to me. So when I first saw the film, I never questioned it, and so I really like that version. I really do, and I think it's really cool. But yeah, Blade Runner. the cityscapes and the flying cars, the spinner. I actually got to meet and work with Sid Mead years and years ago, which was really cool. The guy did the design for that. Another movie that really influenced me was Tron, the first one, simply because it was just so different. I remember, sitting in the movie theater and just being blown away and walking out and back in the real world, and I had to like adjust to the real world again, and I thought that was a really, really cool thing. Other movies, gosh, filmmakers movies. I'm a huge fan of the movie Aliens, James Cameron's film. I think that is a fantastic approach to, it's such a great action adventure, military adventure film. It's really not a horror film, right? It's like they took the trope of the first film and then turned it into that. And I just thought it was great. And so I was a big fan of that. So, some of those movies, most of the influences for me, James Cameron's The Abyss, another movie that I really like a lot. Hunt for Red October. It's stuff, but it's like my influences are kind of pre-1990 in a way. And I feel like I want to get back to that kind of storytelling that was going on in the movie industry years ago. I feel like, nothing against Marvel films, but there's kind of a way these films work now, and there's a speed and there's an energy. And I kind of feel like, man, there was some really great storytelling in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, especially in the sci-fi genre. So I'm like, what if we could tell stories like the ones they used to tell, but use today's technology? And pace them up a little bit for today's audiences, but not making kind of the product thing that Hollywood does right now. I want to do something that's more, I don't want to call it art. I just want to, I guess I'm trying to reach an audience of smart people who like smart stuff, that kind of thing. The Planet of the Apes,
oh, fantastic.
Rod Serling. Yeah, Rod Serling. That kind of thing. Gene Roddenberry, what he was trying to do with the original Star Trek way back, that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, and you hit all my favorites. So I think the only one you said that I haven't seen, but it's on my list is The Abyss. But you were going through all of them. I was like, oh, Aliens, love that film, and Blade Runner, love that film. Although I prefer the international cut, which is not that different from the theatrical cut, but it has just a little bit more scenes in it for Blade Runner. Yeah,
I think there's a disc. I don't know I think I have a disc that has every version, like a set that has every version. I don't think I've ever seen that one though, so I should check it out.
Yeah, I think it has like 2 extra minutes of footage, and I've seen 3 versions of it, which is the theatrical, international, and final cut. And I think the international cut is just like 2 minutes longer than the theatrical cut. And I just thought that there was a particular scene that it especially expands on, and I just thought that was helped the story along. That's just my opinion, obviously. If someone said I like the final cut better, I wouldn't argue with them, Well,
but, I mean,
good movie either way.
It's still a great film, right? It's still a great film, but I kind of feel like the same way I did with George Lucas and the special editions of Star Wars, the original trilogy. It's like, it was fine.
Yeah,
it's totally good. Agree. Make something new. It's like it just. So that's the deal. I'm also a big, as far as the Star Wars thing goes, because people always ask me, well, what about Star Wars? I think for me, Star Wars is The Empire Strikes Back.
That's hands down. That's my favorite.
That hands down. Like it's Empire is just it's just the best thing out of that universe to me. That film is just so well paced, and the intensity and the way that they amped up everything from the first film onto the set, it's awesome. And I really wish that that Irvin Kershner could have done Return of the Jedi, and they'd had a different script, and they could have, because I think that they set so much cool stuff up that could have really played out well, and it just, I don't know, so.
Irvin Kershner, his career is so interesting because, I feel like he did everything. So he did indie films, he did B movies, and he's doing space operas with Star Wars, just hands-on, just a guy with such a versatile career. But most people only know him for Empire Strikes Back. They don't know him like from RoboCop or whatever. But, it's...
That's right, RoboCop 2.
Yes,
right?
That's right. Yeah, he did the RoboCop 2 one. Yeah,
right.
But now back to your projects. What are some other cool things that you can tease that are going to be coming out soon or in development?
Well, Parallel Man's not the only thing coming to dust. There's another project which is a live action one that I did, and we should send you the teaser so you can see it. It's called Oceanus, And
Okay.
Oceanus is a story about an underwater city set in the near future. And I've always been a big fan. Like we talk about The Abyss, right, which you have to see. Unfortunately, The Abyss is not on Blu-ray yet, or there's no special edition of it. But you can still find it. Like go to Apple or whatever. But anyway, the underwater thing to me is just so untapped. There've been so many space movies. And the idea, I mean, you've had less people go to the deepest depths of the ocean than have walked on the moon, right? I mean, there's a whole world down there. And as a scuba diver personally, and somebody who's always been into this, I think that there's a big story to be told there. So Oceanus is a story about this marine biologist and her husband, and they're out in the middle of the ocean testing her whale communication system when something very, very bad happens. So it's so that's a short that we're prepared to turn into a full feature. We're close to making a big announcement about that. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And where can people find out more about these projects?
I'd say the best place to go for FutureDude stuff is actually FutureDude.com. So that's got background on all of our key projects and me, and there's cool videos on there. There's all kinds of great art. So we're ready to kind of break out here and really finally kind of show what we're up to the world. So it's cool. I really worked hard as an entrepreneur to raise the money necessary to really put together the right team and the right content, and now we're really ready to start rolling it out and everything. So yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And to all my viewers, definitely head over to futuredude.com. I'll be sure to put the link in the description of this video.
Cool. Okay.
And everyone else, you know where you can find all my links. I'm all over the place. This will be streamed on multiple platforms. So everyone, check it out below. And Mr. Morris, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate your time.
And to everyone else, I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake. If you enjoyed that video, be sure to hit the like button, leave me a comment below, share this video out, and I would really appreciate it if you chose today to become a subscriber to Studio Jake. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on all my socials that are in the description of this video, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.